Chapter 13. The Pedophile Pirate.
When the prophet married Aisha, she was very young and not yet ready for consummation.
Chairman Mohammed settled into his public housing project and immediately began to act like the fool he had become.
Ishak. In the year of the prophet's arrival, Abba Uama died from a rattling in the throat. The messenger said, "His death is an evil thing for the Jews and the Arab hypocrites, for they are sure to say, if Muhammad were really a prophet, his companion would not have died. But truly I have no power with Allah, either for myself or for my companions."
Truer words were never spoken. Mohammed had no morals either.
Tabari. The prophet married Aisha in Mecca 3 years before the Hijrah, after the death of Khadijah. At the time she was 6. Ishak. When the apostle came to Medina, he was 53. Tabari. In May 623 A.D., or A.H. 1, Allah's messenger consummated his marriage to Aisha.
He would be dead in 10 years. She hadn't even lived that long. Pedophilia was, and continues to be, child abuse. The abused had come full circle. He was now an abuser. Accusing a prophet of being a pedophile sounds outrageous, yet the evidence is undeniable.
Tabari. When the prophet married Aisha, she was very young and not yet ready for consummation.
This is how it all happened.
Tabari. My mother came to me while I was being swung on a swing between 2 branches and got me down. My nurse took over and wiped my face with some water and started leading me. When I was at the door, she stopped so I could catch my breath. I was brought in while Muhammad was sitting on a bed in our house. My mother made me sit on his lap. The other men and women got up and left. The prophet consummated his marriage with me in my house when I was 9 years old.
Given a choice, I believe most people would prefer to get their spiritual inspiration from someone who isn't a sexual predator. Mohammed struggled to justify this behavior.
Bukhari. The prophet said, "A virgin should not be married till she is asked for her consent." "O Apostle, how will the virgin express her consent?" He said, "By remaining silent." Allah's apostle told Aisha, "You were shown to me twice in my dreams,"
Also known as sexual fantasies.
"I beheld a man or angel carrying you in a silken cloth. He said to me, 'She is yours, so uncover her.' And behold, it was you. I would then say to myself, 'If this is from Allah, then it must happen.'"
Allah not only approved pedophilia, he insisted upon it. That makes the Islamic God as perverted as his prophet. Since 53-year-old pedophiles are not prophet material, I want to give Islam every opportunity to clear this up. The next hadith is from Aisha.
Tabari. There are special features in me that have not been in any woman, except for what Allah bestowed on Miriam bint Imran.
She was referring to Mary, the mother of Yeshua, although she didn't know her name or her father's name, and none of the features actually applied. Amram is actually the father of Moses. With Miriam, or Mary, being Moses' sister, Mohammed got confused and erroneously attributed Moses' father to Miriam, the mother of Yeshua.
I do not say this to exalt myself over any of my companions. "What are these?" someone asked. Aisha replied, "The angel brought down my likeness."
She was a babe.
"The messenger married me when I was 7. My marriage was consummated when I was 9.
She was abused.
He married me when I was a virgin, no other man having shared me with him."
She was a child.
"Inspiration came to him when he and I were in a single blanket."
A baby inspired him.
"I was one of the dearest people to him. A verse of the Quran was revealed concerning me when the community was almost destroyed."
She inspired Allah.
"And I saw Gabriel when none of his other wives saw him."
She lied. Think about the implications of what Aisha just said. Muhammad was inspired. A Quran surah was handed down while the Prophet was having sex with a little girl. Allah didn't find pedophilia the least bit troubling. The following confirms that the first Muslims were consumed by greed. The Prophet was inspired by the body of a child, and the circumstances surrounding the Quran revelations are as perverted as the scriptures themselves.
Bukhari. The people used to send presents to the Prophet on the day of Aisha's turn.
To have sex with him.
Aisha said his other wives gathered in the apartment of Salama,
Wife number 2.
and said, the people send presents on the day of Aisha's turn, and we too love the good presents just as much as she does. You should tell Allah's apostle to order the people to send their presents to him, regardless of whose turn it may be. Repeated that to the Prophet, and he turned away from her. When the Prophet returned to she repeated the request again. The Prophet again turned away. After the third time, the Prophet said, don't trouble me by harming Aisha, for by Allah, the divine inspiration,
that would be Quran surahs,
never came to me while I was under the blanket of any woman among you except her.
If there have been any skeptics who have made it this far without acknowledging that the Quran was inspired to satisfy Muhammad's cravings rather than to save men's souls, welcome to the realm of reason. Earlier I accused the victim of pedophilia of lying. I want to explain why. Her 8th divine gift was contradicted during one of the bedroom revelations.
Bukhari. The Prophet said, Aisha, this is Gabriel. He sends his greetings and salutations. Aisha said, salutations and greetings to him and Allah's blessings. Addressing the Prophet, she said, you see what I don't see.
This hadith reveals how perverted Muhammad was and how sane other Arabs were by contrast.
Bukhari. I participated in a ghazwa,
which would be an Islamic raid,
with the Prophet. I said, Apostle, I am a bridegroom. He asked me whether I had married a virgin or a matron. I answered, a matron. He said, why not a virgin who would have played with you? Then you could have played with her. Apostle, my father was martyred, and I have some young sisters, so I felt it not proper that I should marry a young girl as young as them.
It's obvious who corrupted whom. Muhammad's behavior would be considered criminal in every civilized nation on earth. No moral society has ever condoned old men having sex with young children. If you are caught, you're locked up, separated from decent people. Pedophilia is so heinous, convicted felons torment child abusers. Even they can't stand to be in their presence. Such a grotesque act disqualified Muhammad from his alleged calling. What's more, his personal perversity had a lasting legacy. Muslims follow his example. While most of what happens in the Islamic world escapes our purview, as Islam is hostile to all freedoms, including press and inquiry, we have gained glimpses in Afghanistan and Iraq. There, virginal young girls are frequently raped by Muslim men. And as you would expect in a culture influenced by Muhammad, the victims are shamed, not the perpetrators. It's little wonder Muhammad's contemporaries call him mad, insane, and demon-possessed. It is little wonder Islamic clerics try so hard to hide this stuff from the world. It is why Muhammad assassinated a score of poets, the journalists of their day, who had the courage to expose him. It is why Muslim rulers issue fatwas today. Decadent egomaniacs like Muhammad are deeply troubled and tortured souls. Their insecurities drive unbridled lusts for power, sex, and money. Their feelings of inadequacy cause them to be shy, yet their outward manner overcompensates, making them abusive and purposefully deceptive. They need others to bow down to them in submission, and they require unquestioned obedience. Muhammad was a textbook case, as was Adolf Hitler, his modern twin.
Bukhari.